Your cybersecurity solution is here. Introducing Pentester's Advanced Cybersecurity Suite. Ready for peace of mind? Try it for free. No credit card required. Pentester.com.
When I went to the Raven Night on a Saturday afternoon, and if there was 30 guys in there, 27 of them killed somebody. I'll never forget that day when we decided we were going to plead, and they offered us, they offered me with the time they offered me, and I was getting ready to accept it. And I called up my house, and the first words out of my father's mouth was, not how much time are you going to get? Oh, I feel so bad. You're going to spend 10 years in jail. Was, don't admit any kind of membership, don't admit anything. Those were because otherwise you know what's going to happen.
I used to drink with his father. Now, his father was a good friend of mine.
He liked my father because they were cut from the same cloth. They were two homicidal murderers, him and my father. That's why they got along so good. So let's talk real. Let's talk turkey here. You can't go out in the morning and murder people, then take your kids to the Little League game like nothing happened. You know what I mean? That's what he did. Good morning, everyone. My name is Andy Ruggiano Jr. I want to welcome everybody to Reform Gangsters. And if you like my content, please hit the subscribe button and ring the bell. Also, don't forget to check out my Patreon. I got a lot of really good content on there, a lot of content coming your way. I'll be in New York this week on the 4th. If you want to meet us for lunch, please contact me at Anthony Ruggiano Jr. at gmail.com. Send us an email and we'll try to hook up with you. If you enjoy my content and you'd like to support the show, please buy me a cup of coffee. There's a link in the description. It's not a membership. It's not a recurring payment. It's just to help support the channel. Also, if you want to have a 20-minute conversation with me on Zoom, that's available too. Also, there's a link in the description for that. So check it out. Today, and my book. Oh my God, I can't forget about my book now. Don't forget, there's a form on my website, anthonyruggiano.com. There's a form on the website to fill it out, and the first 100 books will be numbered and signed, and we'll notify you when that's ready for purchase. So check that out and fill out the order form. The book's coming out to really dynamite. I think everybody's going to enjoy it. You know, I had a big life, a lot of ups and a lot of downs, and we're going to try to document a lot of it. So I think it'll be interesting. So check it out. You know, Tommy Karate now has come forward with his daughter, doing some videos from prison, from federal prison. And, you know, he's a made member of the Banana family, and there are rules and regulations concerning made members. And like, before I get started, I just want to explain something, because I've been getting a lot of DMs from people in the civilians, a lot of civilians saying, what's the big deal with Joey Molina and Tommy Karate are doing? To civilians, it's really probably not a big deal because they don't understand the intricacies of the mafia and the mafia protocol and the rules and regulations of the mafia. And in the mafia circle, which isn't a big circle, but in the mafia world, what they're doing is wrong. And there's no way around it. To the civilian population, to a lot of them, it doesn't seem like it's wrong. But to people in the street that are associated with the mafia, made members, associates, they know that what they're doing is wrong. And I always knew that Tommy and my father, Fat Andy, had a relationship because my father always talked good about Tommy, but I'll get to that at the end of the segment. So Tommy, out of everybody that's talking about him, he chose to talk about Fat Andy and myself. My father in a really good light, and of course me in a negative light. So what we're going to do is we're going to play the sound bites of him talking to his daughter over the phone in the federal prison, and I'll give you my interpretation of what he said. So without any further ado, let's hit the video.
Members of the mafia was expected. Now, I want to set the record straight, right? Now, Fat Andy's kid made a remark. He made a remark that, you know, I'm no different than these other informants, you know, telling about the intricate working of a sit down. Now, with the RICO, the assistance of informants, undercover agents, grand juries, court-authorized wiretaps. The myth and the secrecy surrounding the mob has long been exposed. So anything what I said could be anybody who wants to do a little research, or somebody even told me, you just go on AI. I would break down how sit-down. And besides, these sit-downs never happen. Never happen. And Fat Andy's probably rolling over in his grave.
So let's talk about what was just said. Yes, all of that is on record. All of the information about sit-downs, all the information about what goes on in the mob is on record. It is, you can look it up, AI, this other stuff, Chat B, whatever the hell that is. It's all out there, yes. And like I said earlier, for the civilian population, that's fine. But even though that's all out there and it's all documented, members of the mafia still are not supposed to talk about it. And I'll give you an example. Everybody's familiar with The Sopranos, right? Everybody watched The Sopranos. It was a major hit. There's an episode in The Sopranos when Christopher becomes a made member of the family. And in that episode, they showed the ceremony of a man being made into the mafia. They showed the ceremony. Now, everybody out there that's in the mob, that's associated with the mob, and a lot of other people know, even though it was shown on that episode, and also they also have a video, the feds have a video because someone wore a wire in a ceremony, I believe it was in New Jersey even, where they have it on tape of the ceremony being performed. Now, even though that's all out there, it's still, you cannot talk about it. So if you take a plea or anything, any made member, and they ask you to explain the ceremony, you can't do it. And if you do it, that's it. You broke the rules. So yeah, Tommy has a point about it's all out there, it's all on record. Yeah, it all is. But a made member still is not supposed to talk about it. I know that might be hard for the civilian population to understand, but in the mafia, it's not so hard to understand because that's how it goes. So I'm going to say it again. Even though it's on record and it's part of public information and it's on TV, made members or anybody that's associated with the mafia is still not supposed to talk about it. And that's the bottom line. So you could try to justify it. People could try to justify anything all they want. But the bottom line is the rule is the rule. That's it. So because it's public knowledge, you can't talk about it. Just like the episode of The Sopranos where Christopher got made. You cannot talk about it. When I took a plea, everybody knew there was a Gambino crime family. Everybody knew it, right? It's documented. It's out there, right? But anybody that took a plea that admitted to being a member of a crime family, the guys in the mob considered that a bad plea. And I was away with guys that were talked about and shunned because they took a bad plea, because they admitted that they were members of a crime family. So yeah, just because things are documented doesn't mean you could talk about them. Now let's finish the video about his relationship and what he had to say about me.
The late 70s, called Bogarts. It was on, like, I believe, 54th Street or 53rd Street, between 2nd and 3rd Avenue. I used to drink with his father. Now, his father was a good friend of mine. I never dropped by the house, you know, and but he's a Queens guy. I'm a Brooklyn guy, but I got along with his father very good. And like I said, his father's rolling over in his grave. Well, anyway, now what I'm going to break down this so-called murder that happened that never happened. And also, these sit-downs never happened. So I don't know how you want to equate me to a rat. I never had that sit-down with this Louis, who I don't know, and I never had this ridiculous sit-down with John Jr., where I'm an abusive, vicious Doberman pincher, and he's a shivering Chihuahua. It never happened. Like this book, and I wonder what this movie's going to be about. You know, if they're really basing this movie on this book, is Pete Davidson really going to be dressing up as a woman, going into nightclubs and then leaving with these so-called victims and murdering them? Is Pete Davidson really going to be dressing up as a Hasidic Jew and assassinating people? or as an Orthodox rabbi and assassinating people. I don't know what this movie's really going to be a comedy. You ask me.
So before I go on, I don't want to start a war with Tommy, back and forth, back and forth. I'm just stating my end part of it, my information, more or less, and what I know to be true. So yeah, my father had a relationship with Tommy. My father always talked good about Tommy. I even believe my father may have even went to his wedding. I'm not sure on that, but I'm pretty sure I remember my father saying that he was going to Tommy Karate's wedding. But I know they were friends. I know they had a relationship because my father was friends with a lot of guys in the Banana family. Spiro, the underboss, was very tight with Fat Andy and Tony Lee. So there was a relation. Even the boss, Phil Rusty, my father was very good friends with him. My father was in prison with him in the 50s in Sing Sing, with him and Tommy Lombardi and a lot of other guys that became prominent. Chrissy Tick, my old man was in Sing Sing with them when he was a kid. He was hanging out with them, so he was good friends with all of them. And yeah, and he liked Tommy. And I'm going to give you a little synopsis of what Fat Andy considered a good guy in the mafia. And because the mafia minds, they're warped. So Fat Andy, if you were capable of doing work, and in the mafia, the code word for murder is work. That was like a slang word. He did a piece of work. That means he did a hit. Now, for some sick reason, my old man, young guys that did work, he took a liking to them, and he respected them because they did that. And one of the reasons why he liked Tommy Karate was for that reason, because Tommy was capable of doing work and had done work. So now on this video, another part of that video, which we're not going to play, Tommy literally says that he never committed any murders. Now, we all know that's not true. Okay? We all know that's not true. And I'm not saying this movie is going to be all truth. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of bullshit in this movie. I'm not even interested in this bullshit movie they're making. I'm talking about what I know to be true, not what this author wrote in the book. But, he's denying everything, which I'm sure some of it didn't happen and a lot of it has happened. But I'm just talking about now our family's relationships. And one of the reasons why Fat Andy respected him and liked him was because he was capable of doing work, and he did do work. And he's right about that. They were friends, they did drink together. And that's one of the reasons why Fat Andy liked him, because he was capable of doing what he did. And we all know what he did. I mean, he denies he killed Willie Boy. He denies he killed Greg. The kid Greg, he denies he killed him. Mark Ryder's son, Greg, he denies he killed him. Meanwhile, Mark Ryder put a contract out on him and the guy that was with him. I think the guy that was with him, actually, they killed him in jail, in federal prison. And he could deny everything he wants, but he is who he is. And yeah, at the end he says, he says that my father must be turning over in his grave. And I heard that, a lot of people tell me that, and you know what? I know what I did was against my father's being, his whole train of thought. I mean, and like I always said 100 times, and I'll keep saying it, if my father was alive at the time of my arrest, I would have never cooperated. And anybody that knows me knows that to be true. I would have never cooperated. I would have went down fighting. I would have never gave my father up. There's no way in life I would have done that. No way in life I would have done that, because I could have went to jail with a clearer head, because I would have known that I went down fighting. I would have had plenty of money for legal teams. And even if I got convicted, I knew my family would be looked after because he was still around. Even if Tony Lee was around, it would have been the same situation. So yeah, my father may be turning over in his grave, but Tommy, he definitely don't like what you're doing either. Believe that. Knowing Fat Andy like I know Fat Andy, he ain't happy with what you're doing either. And if he was alive, he would tell you, "What are you fucking kidding me? You can't do that. What are you, nuts, doing something like that?" So you know that, and I know that. So I'm happy he mentioned me on his little video. But it is what it is. Yeah, it is documented about sit downs, about murders, about the ceremony of making of the mob. It is documented. And for the civilian population, it's fine for them to talk about it. It's fine for them to believe what they want to believe, that it's okay with Tommy and guys like Joe Molina are doing. But in the mafia circles, it's not okay. Believe me, the guys out there right now, Genie Gotti and Nicky and all them gangsters that are really still out there, that are still active, are laughing at what's going on out there with Tommy and Joey Molina. They're laughing about it. So with that, I hope I explained the video enough. When we got indicted for federal RICOs and we were negotiating plea deals, we were not allowed to admit that we were part of a crime family. And if we did that, and for the guys that did that, that was considered a bad plea. And a bad plea encompasses cooperating, anything like that. That was considered a bad plea. And when they hit the yards in the federal prisons, if guys knew that they did that, they were shunned. They were talked about, oh, he took a bad plea. You could have been a captain, a boss. I know guys that did that. And they were talked about like, oh, he took a bad plea. He admitted he was in the Genovese family, or he admitted he was an associate of the Gambino family. When I was ready to take a plea, my father was free. Tommy's friend, Fat Andy, his friend that he talked about, he liked my father because they were cut from the same cloth. They were two homicidal murderers, him and my father. That's why they got along so good. So let's talk real. Let's talk turkey. Even though he was my father, he was a psychopathic murderer. I mean, you can't go out in the morning and murder people, then take your kids to the Little League game like nothing happened. You know what I mean? That's what he did. And that's why him and Tommy got along so good, because they were both cut from the same cloth. And when I was ready to take a plea, my father was home, and I called. I'll never forget that day when we decided we were going to plead, and they offered us. They offered me with the time they offered me, and I was getting ready to accept it. And I called up my house, and the first words out of my father's mouth was, not how much time are you going to get? Oh, I feel so bad. You're going to spend 10 years in jail. Was, don't admit any kind of membership. Don't admit anything. Those were because otherwise, you know what's going to happen? It would be a bad plea. That was his first words out of his mouth. So if I couldn't even admit that, which was actually really meaningless to the civilian population, would say, what are you kidding? What is that? Don't mean shit. But to the mob, it means something. Just like anything that's documented doesn't mean anything to the public, but to the mob, it does. That's why you can't talk about it, and you're not supposed to talk about it. That's just the justification. So whatever, like him, so him and Joey, my opinion is him and Joey Molina, they have the public right now in the palm of their hands, because the public doesn't understand the intricate workings of the mafia. That's why for guys like me and other guys on YouTube that were part of that mafia life, we know the difference. We know what's real and not real, but the masses don't. And that's why they're getting away with what they're getting away with. Not admitting there's a mafia and I didn't kill nobody and everybody's full of shit and everybody's lying and everybody's making shit up. That's not true. That's just not true. Oh, I think it's huge. I mean, it's definitely huge. I mean, he's in Kentucky. Um, I think it's huge. I think it gives him something to look forward to. It's a new chapter in his life. He started a relationship with his daughter that was adopted, that just found him, through DNA, which is a great thing. I mean, at least now the girl has a father. I mean, listen, my father was just as bad as him, but I loved my father like she's gonna love her father, and just like Angel loves her father. Even though our fathers were who they were, we still loved them. So I think for him, but I think it gives him a reason to go on. It's not going to put him in the street. He's never going to see the street. We know that. But I think it gives him some purpose. And he's going to keep on going on until, as long as they allow him. It amazes me that they even allowing him to do that, that the BOP is even allowing him to do that, giving him a platform. My father? Well, if I was in the mob, yeah, because I knew a lot of killers in the mob that I liked, that I respected, that I loved hanging out with. They were good to me. When I went to the Raven Night on a Saturday afternoon, and if there was 30 guys in there, 27 of them killed somebody. I mean, you know what I mean? So yeah, in the mob, that's a badge of honor. I mean, unless you're a Roy DeMeo or like maybe even a Tommy Karate, who's the, like did crazy vicious things allegedly. But yeah, definitely. No, I would have definitely wanted. I mean, if I was in that lifestyle, if I wasn't, of course I wouldn't want to. Yeah, yeah. I mean, listen, she was adopted. She was given up at birth. I don't know the reasons why. I mean, Tommy did marry. Um, But she wanted to find out if the adoption agency even told her not to contact him because they knew who he was. And when she found, when she wanted his name, they told her, listen, who he was, and she contacted him anyway. From what I understand, from what I read, she contacted him and lied and told him she was a law student, and she wanted to start interviewing him for law school. And almost for a whole year, she met with him, and he didn't know who she was until she revealed herself to him. And then when she revealed herself to him, he took a DNA test, and she is his biological daughter. And now they have this relationship with YouTube. And maybe he's trying to have her earn some money, which is fine. I mean, everybody needs to earn money. We all need to pay bills and rent and have shelter and food. So maybe this is a way for him to have, help his daughter earn a living, which is honorable. We all want to help our children financially in any way we can. I mean, that's the goal in life, right? To help our children, raise our children, help them, with the burdens of life. So maybe, that's another thing he's trying to do, is have her earn some money, which is fine. But don't do it on everybody else's back. Don't do it with a bunch of phony bullshit. Let's do it. Because I'm going to tell you again, I believe the reason they talk like that is because the general public doesn't know any better. And I'm not knocking the public, don't get me wrong. That it's just, the general public really doesn't know. They only know what they read, what they see on TV, what comes out of our mouths. And overall, the general public is going to believe what they say or not care what the rules are. And why not? Why shouldn't they? Who cares what the rules are, the mafia rules?
A lot of guys in the mafia genre now on YouTube trying to make a name for themselves. What percentage of the guys out there are real compared to fake in your eyes?
All I can say this. I know for a fact, and I'm not going to mention names or anything like that. I know for a fact that there's some guys out there that are photoshopping themselves into stories. There's a lot of guys out there that know a lot, that have been around a while, and they know a lot of stories, and they know a lot of people, and they're photoshopping themselves integrating into these stories and embellishing about how much money they made and how powerful they were. And then there's some guys that are real. You know what I mean? And then there's some guys that are real, that were made, that were captains and bosses, and are real. So it goes both ways. I want to thank everybody for tuning in. Don't forget, if you like my content, please hit the subscribe button and ring the bell. Don't forget also to check out my Patreon. I got a lot of great content on there, a lot of content coming your way. I'll be in New York, like I said, this Tuesday. If you want to hook up with us, go to my email, Anthony Ruggiano Jr. @gmail.com. Send us an email. We'll try to work something out with you. I'll be in New York most of the day on Tuesday. My book's getting ready to be published. There's a form on my website, anthonyruggiano.com. If you want to order the book, fill out the form. The first 100 copies will be numbered and signed. Also, buy me a cup of coffee so I could earn some money to create better content. There's a link in the description for that. There's also a link in the description for a one-on-one with me. If you want to set up a one-on-one on Zoom with me, please hit the link and we'll book it. And everybody else have a great day. Thanks for tuning in.